Retroforce!
Retroforce, go!
Flames are pouring from the buildings now. There's cars toppled, buildings entire just crushed and crumbled. I'm not sure if it's safe to report from my vantage point. I really need to leave. Civil Defense has informed me that the surrounding areas are in ruin. I see some people running now. In the opinion of this reporter, if this nation, or in fact the world, ever needed heroes, that time is now. That time is now.
And welcome to the official Retroforce Go Episode 1. Thanks for joining us last week for Episode 0 and making it a success. Well, I hope you like this show also. And joining me today on it is Colette Bennett.
Hello.
Chad Conselmo.
Hello.
Hush Gush, a.k.a. Topher Cantler.
Yay, nudity!
And joining us, hopefully full-time, Aaron Linde.
How's it going, bitches?
What up, hoes?
All right, well, let's just jump right into it, guys. Last week was, I would say, was a success, and we're just going to go from there and hopefully keep that level of awesome sauce at 100%. But other news happened this week. We had some virtual console releases. Anybody download anything?
Nope.
Silence! Excellent! This is going to be the quickest intro ever.
Well,
Right.
I would if I could. Streets of Rage looks awesome. I mean, I haven't played it in a really long time. I'd love to play it again.
Streets Rage 2 is fantastic.
Yeah.
Actually, the entire series was actually pretty good. Streets Rage 2 was the one that took the most quarters from me out of all of them, which is coming out for the Wii. So if you like Final Fight, basically is what it is. Go buy it.
It's like, no, it's Final Fight that's actually good and awesome.
Good, yeah,
As much as I
exactly.
love Final Fight. I love Final Fight, but Streets of Rage took it to a new level.
Final Fight 2 was good.
Oh, they were all good, but not nearly as good as Streets of Rage, especially 2. And the best thing about Streets of Rage 2 is that it bought into the early 90s principle that if you have a kid in, like, rollerblades, he can kick ass.
Oh yeah, I know. And it was every game in like the early 90s, late 80s had to have rollerblades or some sort of skateboarding champion.
The kid with the backwards hat on who, for some reason, had, like, magical powers or some shit. Yeah.
I know.
And a can of spray paint in his pocket.
Yeah, that was
I know
actually
that's
the beginning
Jet Grind
ideas
Radio.
of Jet Set. Yeah, you beat me to it. Cool. All right. Well, another game that came out. One thing I don't understand is a lot of people have panned Donkey Kong Country. Now looking back on it, but I always remember it was great. And now Donkey Kong Country 2 is out.
I don't know. I think the reason people pan it is because of the hype that was pushed. I don't know if any of you guys were subscribers to Nintendo Powers back in Nintendo Power back in the day, but they released that video. There was a video that they sent out to subscribers about how awesome Donkey Kong Country was going to be, and oh my god, it's going to be the best game ever. And it turned out just to be, sprites that were rendered big whoop. It's a pretty basic platformer, but Donkey Kong Country 2 was a lot of fun. Like that's my favorite of those games. 3, I can take
mine
or leave,
too.
But
It's a lot
2
better
was
than the
awesome.
first one.
Yeah.
You know, it's called Diddy's Kong Quest, and for the longest time, I never got that. Like I kept calling it Diddy Kong's Quest,
That's okay.
and then I think I figured it out like when I was like 26.
I think I just figured that out right now.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I'm with you.
I'm looking at it. I'm like, what is Chad talking? Oh fuck! I get
Oh
it now.
my god, are you guys kidding? Oh, good lord.
All right.
I know, I'm slow. Sorry.
Now,
That's
you're
okay.
slow. I seriously just got that. I'm fired. No, like a lot of people I was reading recently, like games that they gave like 9s and 10s like back in the day, including Donkey Kong Country, look back and they're like, oh my god, that game was awful. What were you thinking? And I don't see that. I just, that game was cool. It extended the life of that SNES like forever, and then the sequel was big, and it wasn't bad. I mean, it was good games made by Rare. Has something happened in the last 10 years that made them suck?
I think it was because like as a platformer, they weren't very advanced. It was all about just like the fancy graphics and stuff, and if you take out all that, it's not a very deep game.
Yeah, but there was the barrel level.
Oh god.
Which
Yeah,
was the shit.
That's
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
loved the games. I mean, I had nothing against them, but I think that's what people were coming from.
It was
Yeah.
also kind of brutally unfair at points. I mean, like it wasn't just hard. There were points that were so frustrating that it's one of those controller checking games, especially the later levels. I think all the Bramble levels where you have to fly through. You're hanging by that bird.
Oh, those are so frustrating.
Oh my god! And as far as it's not very innovative as a platform. I think someone already mentioned that, but it's a cool game. I think the reason that people look back and say, "Oh God, what were we thinking?" is because we were so easily wowed by the graphics.
Yeah, Motorstorm. Anyway.
Do you guys remember the rap?
Oh God, I do.
No, I don't want to remember the rap.
The DK rap.
Thanks a lot, jerk.
Isn't that a move in Smash Brothers?
I know that they play the rap in one of the.
Yeah, but that was
for one
it
of the
was
Smash
it was from
Brothers
Donkey
levels.
Kong 64, wasn't it? It was.
Oh yeah, maybe it was, but wasn't there something at the beginning of Donkey Kong Country 2, or am I just thinking wrong?
Yeah, it played the old song, and then the was it the old guy monkey?
Yeah, it was.
Fell
well,
on
that's-
somebody's head with a stereo, and then
Right. Yeah.
Well, would you
Anywho.
say anyone would, if they wanted to go out and buy it, would be worth downloading or just avoid?
Yeah, it's worth a couple bucks. I'd say if you've never played it before and if you're looking for a pretty solid platformer that'll take you a long time to beat, yeah, Donkey Kong Country 2 is where you want to start. I'd take Donkey Kong Country 2 over the original or the third. The third is horrible.
Okay, cool. Well, that leaves us with TurboGrafx 16, and I'm pretty happy with what's been coming out. Now we've got Blazing Lasers.
Blazing Blazers.
Blazing Lasers. I believe I mentioned this
Blazers.
game last week, and I know I mentioned to you guys this was my favorite shooter of all time for a really, really, really long time.
Excitement.
And I told the listeners last week that I was like, I think the reason because I borrowed it and played it last week, and I was like, wow, this is actually kind of easy. So I think maybe that had a lot to do with my love for it. I don't know. I don't know. Anyone else play?
Yeah,
I've never played it.
Yeah, well,
I've never played it either.
I was one of the rare few who skipped on the Genesis and went for a TurboGrafx, so that was one of the games I wasted a lot of time on. It's not bad as far as shooters go. It's not something that I'd put money into nowadays, but it certainly brings back a lot of fond memories.
That's cool. I don't know. I would say it's worth getting. I mean, there's not that many shooters in the world really that are actually good. So I mean, if you got a couple of bucks, might as well buy it. No,
Right.
I mean, you get a lot of shooters that come out and you're just like, oh, okay, this is 1941 all over again, which isn't a bad
Oh well,
game.
yeah. I mean, some
But
of
I
them.
mean, there's a
yeah.
lot of shit. So it's like when a shooter comes out that actually is quality, I'm like, jump on it.
I don't know. I'd say that in my personal experience, I'd say the crap to gold ratio is just about what you see in RPGs or fighters nowadays. Or shit, practically any genre that's not terribly obscure.
But RPGs are still coming out for the most part, and shooters are kind of on the wayside. So.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, I think that's one of the good things about the American market nowadays is that we're seeing the shooters that we do get coming out here are actually pretty good. Even the horrible budget titles. Raiden 3 came out for $30, and everyone expected it to be kind of crap, but it actually was pretty good. So it could be worse.
Cool. Chad, you ever play this game?
No, I actually haven't played Blazing Lasers. I had a TurboGrafx 16, and I don't know why I didn't play that game. I feel like it was one of those games that everyone had, kind of like Bonks.
Oh, one of those everybody had it, so I'm not going to get it.
Yeah, maybe that was it. I don't know why, but
Wasn't
it's
it,
nice to
wasn't
see.
it at one time, wasn't it a pack-in?
Oh, who knows?
Oh, maybe it was actually. I think you might be right.
I know that when I got mine, it was Keep Courage. That was the pack-in
that
when
was
I
the
got
one.
mine.
That's
Yeah.
that's what I got. Keep Courage too.
I can't believe you never had a TurboGrafx 16, Colette.
I know. I don't even know why
I
not.
never
I
had
know
one
I
either.
wanted one. I wanted one, but I had like a Genesis, an SNES, and I was like, I just never got around to getting it.
All right.
Oh, wait, let me retranslate. I never talked my parents into buying.
Better answer.
There you go.
Yep.
There we go. All right, well, that pretty much does it for Wii games. That's actually a really good week. I know.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
You know?
it is.
Unfortunately, Miss Pac-Man or some other lame-ass, arcade game that everybody has didn't come out to round out the awesomeness, But here we got over here. What is this? Oh, Xbox Live Arcade. Xevious? Anyone?
Well, sure. It's
Yeah, duh.
It's-
Classic.
yeah. I mean, well, you guys go ahead.
Well, I mean, all right, for listeners, Xevious is supposedly, the first top-down shooter or whatever for Namco in '82.
It's not supposedly it is. It is the first vertical shooter.
Vertical shooter.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure you can get this game on just about any cell phone or pretty shareware type of thing. I don't know. I think they're just throwing it in there on Xbox Live Arcade to throw it in there, and it's not a bad game, but I mean, it literally is the first shooter, so you're gonna get what you expect.
Right.
I
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
fun.
I think it's great. I think it's so much fun.
Okay.
It's true. It's not bad. It's definitely you can tell that it is one of the cornerstones of the shoot 'em up market. But yeah, it's been everywhere. Like and it's funny because if you own Star Fox Assault, you don't
GameCube,
need
yeah.
to buy this because you can unlock it by actually getting enough medals or something.
Ah.
And it's also been on like every Namco museum release or a lot of them.
So you don't really need it.
You got your achievements, but it's just like Pac-Man on Xbox Live Arcade, which is like if you haven't played it already, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
Well, the other Xbox Live Arcade game that is coming out this week, and just to let the listeners know, this is being recorded on Tuesday, not the normal Wednesday. So we haven't actually played these Xbox Live Arcade games, but we can pretty much tell you what you need to hear. But the other one is going to be Russian Attack, originally released on the NES.
No one cares.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you played it on the NES, you probably hate it. You needed a Game Genie probably to beat it, and Xbox Live thought that this game was so awesome that they give you 2 versions this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the original
Crap and shiny crap.
There you go. Can't imagine what else we have to say about that. So, I mean, honestly, just emulate it or something. Don't pay money for that. That's a piece of shit. So, this week, awesome. Virtual Console games, rocking out. The Xbox Live has failed miserably.
Not so much.
Who'd have thought?
And they
I
had
know.
2 chances, and they failed on both accounts.
I know.
did.
Cool. But, all right, we're going to take a break. You're going to listen to some Reverend Anthony, and then we'll come back, and we got some more for you, all right? Cool. Break!
Let's go!
This is Reverend Anthony with the weekly Reverend Rant. This time, jumping right into it, I want to talk about Spider-Man 3 for the Wii. I just got it and saw the movie in the same day actually, and it's very, very interesting in the fact that it's almost identical to the movie in that in a lot of ways some things make you want to go back and experience it all over again. Some things are just fucking awful and make you want to forget it altogether, and there isn't enough venom in either of them. But basically, for anyone who's ever played the Spider-Man games, you basically know how it works. Is you get New York, almost all of New York, or not almost all of New York, but you get Manhattan to run around, swing around in, and it's non-linear, and you solve crimes, and you basically go along the plot of the movie while simultaneously doing all this other sandboxy type stuff. Basically, the game isn't awful, but it's not good. It's consistently almost good. It's bad, but it's consistently almost good. It's like when you take the controls, the web slinging controls. That's the main appeal of the game, really, because when Activision built this game, they built it from the ground up for the Wii specifically so they could integrate some Wii specific web slinging schemes, and it kind of works, interestingly enough. But that being said, it's got some serious problems. Namely, when you first hear about it, when Bruce Campbell's giving you the narration and he's being fucking Bruce Campbell, they basically say, okay, here are the web slinging techniques. Your right hand is Spidey's right hand, and when you press B and flick your hand, then you're going to cast a web out. Same thing with the nunchuck. You hold Z, flick your hand, you're going to cast another web out. But that's all they say. From that point on, they're just like, okay, well, experiment, and then you'll find something you like, and you'll be able to know more about your web slinging. You'll discover things on your own. It'll be a nice experience. And in theory, that sounds kind of cool because you get that rush of discovery and doing things on your own. But it's really, really problematic because the web slinging doesn't always work 100% of the time. It's like if you were trying to teach someone how to drive stick shift in a car, and you said, okay, there's the clutch, there's the shift. Now go on your own, find out stuff, and you just left. And you expected them to somehow learn this without ever, questioning whether what they're doing is right. Then you sort of fucked up as a teacher. And the problem in that it relates to Spider-Man 3 is that they say, okay, go on your own, figure this stuff out. But like only about 60% of the time does the web slinging work exactly the way it's supposed to, which is to say you swing right and it actually goes right. You swing with your left hand, it actually goes to the left. But a lot of time it'll just fuck up. You'll swing really sharply to the right, and you'll either go not so sharply, or you'll go left, or just something will screw up. And if the game had just told you specifically, turn the Wiimote really sharply right to go right, turn the Wiimote sort of slightly to go straight, then it wouldn't be a problem when something fucked up because you'd be like, oh, it's just a glitch, it's not a big deal. But when they don't tell you up front, when they say just experiment, it's up to you, then every time you try to do something and get a consistent result, you're running around New York swinging and trying to see, okay, this does this, this does this, but then something will fuck up and you go, oh no, this is my fault, I did something wrong. and you'll have to reevaluate everything that you learned and everything that you thought you knew about those controls, and it's self-defeating because you'll take hours, literally hours, to figure out how to find the perfect way to use these Wii remote controls. And really, it's actually kind of simple if they just told you up front that, if you swing the nunchuck really sharply, then you'll go really sharply. They could have just told you that, but instead you can spend a couple hours, swinging around trying to find out what to do, and it's horribly self-defeating. But after you get the Wii remote down, it's actually not that bad. It's kind of fun. It still fucks up way too often. You'll still go in the wrong direction when you don't want to. But it's very visceral, and a lot of times you really feel like Spider-Man. I mean, it's nerdy to say that, obviously, but you flick your hand and you press a button, and you flick your hand, you press another button, and you're really swinging along, the New York skyline. It feels kind of cool. But that being said, you also don't have anything else to do in the entire game for the most part. Like, the storyline, the movie storyline, is really, really short. The actual plot is actually maybe as short as the movie itself. You could probably play through it in a couple hours. Faster if you skip the cutscenes, which are just too long. And it's repetitive. It's basically every mission comes down to Spider-Man, go to this spot and beat up this guy. Oh no, he's a mutant now. Now you have to beat him up again in a different sort of way because now he's a mutant. You have to use the environment against him or whatever. And it's repetitive and it's kind of boring. But what's also kind of weird is that in addition to this repetitive, boring, short story, where, by the way, you only fight Sandman once, Venom once, the rest of the time you spend your time fucking fighting like Kraven and the Lizard and like third tier vampires for no vampires, of all things, in a Spider-Man game. But the rest of the time is filled with these randomly placed on the map, these gangs. It's like 4 different gangs are working to take over the city, and they commit these little crimes that you have to stop. Like, if you remember in Spider-Man 2, there were crimes and stuff, but they were totally random. It'd be like, crazy driver, jump on top of his car and completely destroy it, and that'll somehow teach him a lesson. Or little stupid retarded girl lost her balloon, go get it and bring it back, and do that 20 times, because that's, they only had about 3 different crimes that happened in fucking Spider-Man 2. So to change that, they made all these different gangs that are working for territory, and it's sort of like the Godfather game, in that you can take territory over from some of them, and there's this mob war aspect to it, which is almost cool, were it not for the fact that they all basically do the same thing. It's still just swing here, beat up this guy, then swing to another place, beat up this guy, swing here, and then open a door, and it's repetitive and really, really boring. And in the end, it's totally irrelevant. I actually spent a lot of time, just because I'm sort of a completist when it comes to sandbox games, but I spent a lot of time trying to take down these gangs and actually worrying about, whether they were taking over police territory or whatever. And I got to the end just having beaten the story mission, and it doesn't fucking matter. Like, there's no reason at all to beat up those gangs except to get experience points, and even then the game's easy enough so you don't need the experience. It doesn't help you in almost any way. It's a masturbatory, it's self-defeating, it's pointless. And furthermore, the combat doesn't really work, which is a problem for, I know, a lot of games on the Wii, most games on the Wii at this point. But the combat is similar to Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, where instead of the Wiimote specifically replicating what you're doing with the character on screen, like in The Godfather, say, with one of the few games that does it right. When you punch to the left, your character punches to the left. When you do a cross, your character does a cross, etc. Instead of being something like that, it's like what Zelda does, which is instead of pressing B, you just move the Wii remote. So you just basically, if you want to attack fast, you just have to sit there and then move your hand back and forth really, really fast, and you kind of look like an idiot because it looks like you're just shaking your hand to fight. My sister actually came in when I was playing, and she goes, "Wow, so this is next gen, huh?" And I was like, "Shut up, bitch!" But before I told her that, she did have a point, because it was just, moving my hand back and forth. I looked like a dork. It wasn't immersive, and it wasn't really fighting. It was just somebody had gone into the code and replaced the whatever said press B to attack, and replaced it with shake the Wii remote to attack. And there's some other things, like you can dodge by moving the nunchuck and stuff. But it's just this problem that a lot of Wii games are having when they take regular gameplay mechanics, like simple button pressing fighting, and try to implement it to the Wiimote. Now, I can understand why they do that, why most games wouldn't want to go over the top and go, push it to the limit and do what The Godfather does, where every different attack has a different Wii remote combination gesture, and it actually works. But it's just pointless. It's not fun to sit around and just shake your hand back and forth and watch Spider-Man beat up 100 guys. Like, if you really want to get into it and you want to, if you have, really young kids, and they'll go, yeah, and they'll punch, and every time they punch, they'll be like, Spider-Man's doing what I'm doing, but he's really not. It's just every time you move your hand a little bit. Like, I would scratch my nose a lot during the game with my left hand, which is holding the nunchuck, and I would accidentally, Peter Parker would basically just dive across the screen because that's his dodge when you move the nunchuck. So it's weird. It's not cool, the fighting. The fighting is bad. So in summation, a lot of the things in this game just sort of suck balls. The story is bad, the mission is bad, the fighting is bad, but, and this is a big but, and this is a big but, that's a classy fucking thing to say, but it's when you sometimes in this game you'll get these moments where you're swinging through the New York skyline and you're flicking with the remote and everything's working perfectly. You swing forward, you swing to the right really sharply, and Spider-Man does this sharp turn, and it just feels right. You know, it feels like you're fucking Spider-Man, like you're 12 and you're pretending in your backyard, and you're shooting silly string at your friends and pretending it's web shooters. It just feels great. You're soaring and everything you're doing is being replicated by Spider-Man. You want to fucking hum the Spider-Man theme to yourself, and it's just cool. And moments like that are what the Wii is made for. This early on in its development, we're obviously not going to get a lot of those games. I think we've been lucky to get, the few moments of that we've had. We'll see a lot more later on, but right now we have to settle for these little moments of beauty just buried in this bullshit. And that's really what Spider-Man 3 is. It's the web slinging sometimes works really, really, really well, but it's also in a game full of shit. So if you're willing to just suffer through a lot of shit to get to some really, really nice and very, very momentary. I don't want to suggest that, you'll have hours where you're just swinging through going, this is so fun, because you won't. At most, it'll be like 5-10 minutes of really tactile web slinging. But if you're willing to sit through a lot of bullshit in order to get to some really cool Wii mechanics that you'd like to see replicated more, then Spider-Man's definitely worth a rental. Don't buy it under any circumstances. My God, never. Don't buy it. Please don't buy it. But it may very well be worth a rental. I'm just putting that out there. And that's all for this week's Rev Rant. I hope I didn't stutter too much or slur my words, but I did. If you have any questions or comments, or you'd like me to talk about something on the show, or you just have some mail, you can always send me an email at reverendanthony@gmail.com. I will respond to every piece of mail I get eventually. And that's about it. Thanks for listening. See ya. Oh, and fucking before I forget, this game has the worst catchphrases ever. Every time you do something, you get a catchphrase, and it's bullshit, and they're fucking awful. The Sandman at one point actually says, "Don't bother coming to the beach, Spider-Man, because the beach is coming to you." And then he punches him. I'm not joking. Alright, that's all.
Retroforce, go!
Alright, welcome back, folks. We're about to start off the second segment here. Let's give thanks to Reverend Anthony for his Reverend Rant. And I don't know. We'll see what goes on with that. Okay, so a couple of people, made a lot of comments last week on our podcast announcement. So I just wanted to say thanks to you guys. And one of the listeners actually wanted to hear a little bit about War Tech. So I thought maybe Aaron could take that for a second.
Okay. Yeah, War Tech. It's coming out for the Xbox 360. By the time you guys hear this, it'll be out. So it's kind of weird to explain. It's sort of like, if you guys remember my Red Star Bargain Bin Laden write-up, it's kind of like a weird sort of mashup between shoot-'em-ups and, in this case, the fighter genre, the one-on-one fighter genre. And it looks pretty cool. The videos are really impressive. Basically, it's a one-on-one kind of duel where you basically hurl huge, massive amounts of bullets at the other guy. So while you're fighting the other dude off, you have to dodge huge waves of bullets, Ikaruga style, and it looks pretty compelling. But so far, there haven't been too many reviews trickling in. But there has been one from 1UP, and they slapped it with a 5 out of 10. So, and the thing is, it's with
pretty harsh.
But like the Red Star, which is a great, fucking amazing game, but really, really, it's a niche title. I mean, like, not many people are going to be into that kind of thing. Same goes for War Tech, and the fact that they're releasing it with a $59.99 price point is mind-blowing to me. Like, if it sucks, there's no way I'm going to spend $60 to find out. Mm-hmm. So for a game like that really only appeals to a certain core set of gamers, they should have knocked it out at $30 or $40.
Yeah, Shadowrun. Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry. I don't have a personal vendetta against that game.
Yeah.
Was it $59.99 to play a multiplayer game? I was like, no, what? No single player? Forget it. I don't know.
That's pretty much Halo, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Which is why we don't play that either.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we mentioned it again. We weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah. All right. No more Halo.
Damn it.
This is Halo free podcast. Sorry, folks. Let's bring it down to something a little more us. All right. Coming out, guys, here, import alert. I want to let you know and the listeners know there's a game that came out, was it May 2nd, called Professor Layton and the Mysterious Village. This game is, I think, published and developed by Level 5. Fucking
Correct.
Amazing group. And
They're amazing.
Very much so.
Don't use that word without Chad being the person.
I know. I was like, wait, you stole my word.
It's amazing. Well, why is it amazing, Chad? Tell me.
It's amazing because it has a great art style, and it's kind of like a hybrid between like adventure games and Brain Age, and I don't know. It's just a really cool looking. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Triplets of Belleville. Anyone?
Yes.
I have.
It kind of reminds me of that actually, and
Totally.
it's kind of a really cool art direction, really cool hybrid kind of game. So it's pretty cool.
A lot of people compared the art style to almost like a Miyazaki film.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like
That's fair.
a middle ground between Miyazaki and like the whole Triplets of Belleville look. It looks great. It looks wonderful.
Yeah, it's actually I would import it. But I recommend that if you import this game that you are fluent, I suppose, in being able to read Japanese, because it's basically an amazingly pretty Brain Age. So it's all puzzles, but like the storyline's completely in Japanese, barely any prompts in English at all. But if you're really into art style and don't really care about that, I would check it out. But I don't know, Aaron, you said something else was coming out for the DS that people should pay attention to?
Yeah, Planet Puzzle League. Planet Puzzle League, that's it. I want to say Puzzle Planet League, but that's not it. Yeah, if anybody ever played Tetris Attack, one of the most brilliant fucking puzzles ever made.
It might be the best one.
Yeah, I think it actually might be the best one. Like, I mean, I like
played
Tetris just as much as the next guy, but Tetris Attack was based on a Japanese puzzler called Panel de Pon, and it was slapped with the Super Mario World 2 motif when it was brought over to the States. The same thing kind of goes for Planet Puzzle League. It's Panel de Pon, but it's for the DS. Renamed Puzzle League in lieu of the, that's kind of what it's become in the States, now that it's no longer associated directly with Tetris. But if you guys haven't played that, look into it. It's got online play. It looks like a whole lot of fun. It's one of the best puzzlers you're ever going to play.
Would it replace Tetris for me though? Because I play that often.
No, I'd say it's a different kind of game than Tetris. It's a different. You have to be in a different frame of mind. It's like because it's you swap blocks like 2 at a time, so there's a lot of combo play going on. Whereas with Tetris, it's pretty basic. You can only do 4 lines at a time max, and there's no real combos and that kind of thing. But as far as I'd say it's the best multiplayer like versus play puzzler ever made.
When does that come out?
That comes out on June 6th, I think.
Excellent.
Sweet. Yeah, I think the DS can use as many Wi-Fi battle games as possible. Like, as I play Tetris,
Agreed.
Again, I don't like playing it the computer. I like playing it against other people often.
Yeah.
That's really where the win comes in for me on that game.
The win.
Cool. Well, listen, if you're listening to this, I guess this would be yesterday, but for us, in the past, tomorrow, Odin Sphere comes out. And there's been a lot of press on this, but not enough, I think. And I think maybe we should take a second and talk about it, because I know you guys are big fans of 2D, much like myself. And this is what seems to be an epic 2D release coming out for next-gen systems.
It's so fucking pretty.
It's so beautiful.
Well, the really cool thing about Odin Sphere, I think, and the thing that has a lot of people excited, people like Jeremy Parrish, who, I mean, if you guys read One Up, or if you're familiar with Toasty Frog, his old blog, you know that, I mean, he's a big stickler for good 2D, and he's one of the guys, kind of like us, who sort of malign, the death of the, it sucks, the death of the 2D platform and the 2D game. And he wants to see more of them, like a 2D console Castlevania. But the cool thing about it is the way they do it, and it's bizarre to watch at first, but you get used to it. The sprites are jointed, so it's like each element of a sprite, like an arm or a leg or a head or what have you, is like a different kind of. It's sprites upon sprites that make one complete model. So to watch them move and to watch them animate is really, really incredible. It's really compelling. And on top of that, the art style that they use, the ways in which these sprites are actually just drawn, it looks insanely beautiful. Like it's a cry for more 2D games. This game, like if this is the last great 2D game, it's going to suck, because this one shows. Visually, I mean, I don't know how.
Yeah, if ever there was an argument for more 2D, this is it right here.
Right, yeah, this game shows what 2D is definitely capable of visually.
Yeah, it was made by Vanilla Software, and I believe it's coming out from Atlas. Here
Yeah, it's Atlas.
Yeah, and Atlas has been coming out with some pretty solid, 2D / cool Japanese stuff lately. And to see him come out with Odin Sphere is, I don't know, just keeping up the good times.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
I don't know. What's interesting is, I don't know. Like, I'm a big 2D fan. I know you guys are. I mean, but people always say that 2D is dead and there's not enough market for it. But then I look at my DS and it's like every awesome game that comes out for that is 2D. There's like 4 3D games, and everything else is 2D. And even the guy Iga who makes Castlevania, he's like, oh, there's not enough demand for another 2D console Castlevania. And it's like, well, who are all these millions of people that are buying every single goddamn DS game that comes out for Castlevania? Like, or how do you tell me there's no demand? Like, I mean, you guys want more 2D games, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think actually we're in the minority because it's like every time, and I tackle this this possibility a lot in a lot of the columns that I write. Especially, I think I wrote something about sequels and a long big rant about sequels and remakes and that kind of thing. And I was bitching about how like bringing things into 3 dimensions like doesn't necessarily make something better, and like just because we should bring something into 3D doesn't mean that we should. Or just because we can't bring something into 3D doesn't mean that we should. Like, but that seems to be the mentality with a lot of gamers nowadays. It's like, well, we have it. We have the capacity for 3D, so why don't we use it?
Well, see, I think that kind of started with the PlayStation. Like, people were still making 2D games, and the Saturn was supposed to be an amazing 2D machine, and then, people, 3D. And
It
stuff
was
like
for a while.
Yeah, but then everyone focused on 3D, and it really wasn't a system capable of rendering quality, like, 3D graphics.
That was the thing that really disappointed me. We made that transition from sprites to polygons, and it was like, okay, we had really beautiful-looking 2D games, and now we've gone to really shitty-looking 3D games.
Yeah.
There was finally the opportunity to have high-resolution sprites. Like the graphics were such that we could have high-resolution sprites and an ass ton of them on screen at one time. Like, we finally reached that point, and then the industry made the transition towards 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well,
I said that.
Go
I
ahead.
said that last week too with Final Fantasy. I was saying like if they kept a 2D Final Fantasy with the technology now, they could fill the screen with sprites and effects and make the game huge, and it would be amazing. But I don't know why they just don't attempt something like that.
Well, it's when 3D came out, it was like next gen, next big thing, and a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon. And I'm probably going to get railed for saying this. Like, I hate Super Mario 64. I think the 2D Marios and Super Mario World personally was like the best Mario game ever made. And when it went
That's my favorite, too.
Yeah, when it went to fucking the 3D Mario run around, it was like, this game fucking sucks. I hate it.
You know what? I didn't even play Super Mario 64, and I haven't played a 3D Mario game.
Well, what's funny is
I tried it and hated it.
I just need to set myself apart from you guys and say that I love Super Mario 64. I'm just saying because I don't
I'm
want
with you, Aaron. I actually agree. I love Super Mario.
Okay, yeah, okay,
Okay.
good. Because when the crew of fucking angry villagers come with pitchforks and torches to take you guys away and skin your bones, I don't want to be amongst you. So.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Well, here,
Like-
I don't know. I didn't want to interrupt Colette. What were you going to say?
No, that's really all I was going to say. Well, it's funny because, like, half of you are in the, like, I hate it camp, and half of you are in the I love it camp, and I'm kind of in the middle. I'm like, yeah, I liked it. Well, that part was okay. Well, that part was really cool. I'm, like, totally, like, straddling the fence.
Well, let me
You're like France.
clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Then you'd give up.
Yeah.
No, but let me clarify what it is I don't really like about it, because before you had quality platformers, 2D, whatever, like Super Mario World, and you would play through a level, and each level was relatively unique, maybe within a subset of levels, like World 1, 2, 3, which had a certain theme. Now, when Super Mario 64 came out, it kind of set the standard for, like, completely pointless item collectathons, because in World
games.
1... in Super Mario 64 is like go collect 3 red coins. World 1, 2, something like that, is go through the same fucking level again and collect like 8 blue coins. And then World 1, 3 is like go through the same fucking level again and do something different. And then the 1, 4 is like go through the same level again and then fight the boss. And then that repeated with every single level, as opposed to Super Mario World, where every single level, the only reason you would replay it is like to find a separate exit, to get like a separate area. Like each one was completely unique and different, as opposed to like Super Mario 64, where it's like, hey, look at this. Do the same thing over. And they repeated it with Sunshine, and that's when I was like, fuck it.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. I said, I have my favorite Mario title of all time was Yoshi's Island. Like that one, it doesn't get any better for me than.
A lot
Yeah,
of
that's my
people say
favorite
that.
2D
A lot of
platform
people.
of all time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's definitely one of my favorites. I mean, visually, gameplay-wise and that kind of thing. When they moved to Super Mario 64, I mean, back then, I was 12 or 13 when that came out, and it was a huge deal to
I
see
think I was
Mario
like
realize.
22.
I know. I just killed myself, by the way.
It was a huge. I'm sorry. It was a huge deal to see Mario realize in a 3D environment. But since then I've kind of set them apart. I consider like New Super Mario Brothers and Yoshi's Island DS and that kind of thing are in themselves like a separate skewing of the Mario kind of
same
lineage from 64. 64 went on to become Sunshine and then Galaxy, and I just see them as different kinds of play. I will say this about 64 though. There has yet to be a 3D platformer that does 3D platforming as well as Super Mario 64.
Yeah, it was called Jumping Flash, and it came out ahead of time, and it did it better.
Are you retarded? No, you're retarded.
No, when you
Jumping
use
Flash.
Nope, you are.
No. Hold on. That's poppycock. Jumping Flash was fun, and it was.
Poppycock.
No, that is absolutely
Poppycock.
poppycock. Jumping Flash was fun and cute. I own it. It's great. But for the love of God, it's got the worst control ever.
No,
like,
man, you could jump. You get like a triple jump, 1, 2, 3, up, and the entire time you're in the air, you find like an almost 3/4 view of yourself down in a 3D environment, and you can see your shadow. You can see where you land. You can make precision jumps, unlike
holy
Mario
crap.
64.
Holy crap, dude. Oh, no. Anybody who listens to this is going to fucking kill you.
That's fine. Kill me.
Just want to make sure it's on the record, dude.
All right, it's on the record. It's written. It's recorded. I'll get.
Anyway.
I'll tell you where I
Oh,
live.
my God.
No,
Sorry.
but no.
I'm
See,
a bastard.
I have that same problem with like the conversion from 2D to 3D. It's like just like you said, just because you can doesn't mean you should, and that's my Metroid Prime issue. I hate that game. The game is Metroid. All of them. Super Metroid, as Chad knows, and if you've read his articles, you will know that he loves it.
Who doesn't? That's like, yeah, that's...
Yeah, but I mean,
That's
how
about
can
as
you...
good as it gets
What
in
level of
this
denial do you have to tell yourself that when you pop in Prime, you're like, oh yeah, that's Metroid? No, it's a fucking first-person shooter. And like, I don't care what you fucking crack you're smoking, like, it's not Metroid. Like, it's not a version of Metroid or like, oh, in the spirit of Metroid. It's a first-person shooter, and you can jump.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, but one thing I think that Metroid Prime did better than most 3D games is a lot of 3D games, one of the problems is it feels really open and empty, you know what I mean? Like with a 2D game, it's like every piece of the level like has something to do, and like especially even in the old 2D Zeldas, it's like think about the overworld. There really wasn't an overworld in those 2D Zeldas. It was like everything kind of was organically connected.
Yeah.
And with 3D games, it always feels like you're kind of running around in this giant open space because they have to do that because they have to obviously give you the sense of like it's a big world around you.
Well, and you have to have the room to fight. Like, combat is something they had to...
Exactly, yeah.
So,
But Metroid Prime, I actually really felt like it was a very organic world. Like, I felt like the entire thing was so connected, and I never felt like I was just running around without doing anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, that's kind of how I feel sort of the same way about Prime as I do about Mario, is because, like, there's a place in my heart for Metroid Prime. It's not nearly as big as you know, the 2D Metroids, like Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission. I prefer those hands down to Prime. But Prime is a different kind of fun. It's not superior in any way, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but would you say that it's Metroid?
Yeah, it's Metroid.
Yeah, I would say it's Metroid.
See, that's where it comes in for me, and maybe I'm one of those like curmudgeon-y old people where it's like, I like it one way. Once you change it, like that's it. Like I will agree that Super Nintendo version of Zelda is an amazing game, and when it went to the N64 and became Ocarina of Time, that worked. Okay, that still felt like Zelda to me, and I have no problem with that. But when you take, for some reason, whatever, I don't know why, but when you took Metroid, Super Metroid, and then you brought it on to the GameCube, made a Metroid Prime, didn't work at all. Like it was just poof. I don't want the listeners to get the wrong idea. I'm not saying these, you know, Mario 64 or Sunshine or, you know, Metroid Prime are bad games. Okay, I don't think they're bad games. They're just, to me, they don't represent the spirit of the games that they came from beforehand. You know, Mario a little bit more. Like, I'm not gonna say that, you know, Mario 64 is not a Mario game, but I mean, it's just like you get used to playing one thing, and then, you know, sometimes the next generation works and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, what is it about? I guess I can ask all you guys this. Like, what is it about 2D specific games that you actually like the most about them? Like, what is it about the actual design that appeals to you more than 3D games?
It has a lot. I'll go first, sorry. It has a lot to do with level design, to be honest with you, and how the levels are segmented. You have to, a lot of 2D games, especially platformers, the levels usually end up being designed where you have to have quick reflexes, you have to plan your moves out, but you have to keep moving. It's not like a puzzle game, but you know, you're just bouncing around, and each one can be unique in its own certain way, and it's not just this open run over universe where, you know, you're like, run over here and do this, and run over here and do that, and run over here and do this, where you spend a lot of time as your character traveling, doing nothing to get to a point where you do one thing and then run to another place and do another one thing. As opposed to like 2D players, it's like you progress through the level and everything has a purpose.
That whole problem is something new with 3D, in that we didn't used to spend so much time running around looking for things, backtracking. I mean, you did to an extent, but there's not so much, you know, now with, I don't know, give me an example.
Of a 3D game or a 2D game?
Okami, I think, is a good
3D.
Okay, yeah. Okami would be a good one.
Like, as much as I love Okami, I spent a lot of time in that game running from place to place.
Place to place, right.
Yeah.
Or just wandering around not knowing what to do.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and not
definitely
seeing
that,
anything new, just wondering where the next area is.
Yeah, that's true.
Where
That's
we
true.
never used to have to deal with that with 2D games.
Yeah,
you knew
I
what
actually,
was coming up.
I think a good example of what you're saying, Toph, would probably be like Tomb Raider in a sense. Like some levels in some games, it's like you're kind of like, all right, where the hell do I go? And you like you have to go and like quote unquote explore every nook and cranny to find like a machine gun. But it's like not that I need to be led through a game, but it's just like make what
No, not at all. But you need to have some kind of idea of what to do next instead of just wandering around in open space.
Well, Topher,
Not
I'm just
knowing.
curious. Like, are you a fan of the Prince of Persia 3D versions?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that actually really is a really good example of a 3D game that pretty much sets you on a straight track, and it kind of feels like a 2D
Yeah, I'm not.
game
I'm
in
not saying
3D.
that. I'm in no way saying that I need everything to be linear, or that I need my handheld, or that
Well, no, yeah, but a sign of good game design is being able to direct the player from...
I don't want a game on rails, but I don't. I also don't want to wander around for an hour and a half wondering
Exactly.
what the fuck is going
Yeah,
on.
If you
it's
guys-
a fine
if you guys-
line. It's tough.
Yeah,
It's
if
a
you guys,
really hard balance to strike.
Totally. And if I think a really good example, if you guys play Half-Life 2 Episode 1 with the commentary on, you can hear how much thought goes into actually like saying, okay, well, we did this, so we can direct the player to do this. Like, they need to know that this is important, and they need to see this. We need to draw the eye here. I don't think that kind of thought goes into most 3D games.
I don't think that kind of thought goes into almost all 3D games. Because it's usually they'll give you like, you'll start at the beginning of the level or drop point or whatever, and it's like, here's the beginning, and then like it kind of widens out in this giant like an arc in two directions where it's like, here's this wide expanse, and then somewhere like obviously right in front of you is the end or whatever next checkpoint, and they'll let you just run around in the middle doing whatever hell you want and say, oh, it's open-ended gameplay, and then you eventually will have to get to this like trigger point or action point, and people like, oh, that's good gameplay because I can do whatever I want. I'm like, nah, I want to play a game. I don't know. I just find it a little boring sometimes. You're just like wandering around, then all of a sudden I realize I've been like fishing for like 2 hours. I'm just like, oh, whoops.
I think that there's this really, really like hard to find line for me anyway in between when a game is too scripted and you're like, I want to, I'm constrained. The idea was that there's either too constrained or like there's the point where you're like wandering around and. Actually, this came up for me, and I don't know if any of you guys had this issue with Hotel Dusk for the DS, where
Yes.
yeah,
That's
like
a
you get to
perfect
a point
example.
where you're like, okay, this is cool, but what am I supposed to do? And you go and you check all the places you could check, and it's just not happening. And you're like, okay, that's not fun because then it pushes your frustration button.
I just started playing Indigo Prophecy on the Xbox, and I hit the same kind of wall.
Yep, it has that. It definitely has that. Even though it's a really cool, unique game, but
it's a wonderful game. But when that happens, like I'm paying a lot of attention to my level of frustration now. Now that it's something that I'm trying to pay attention to how well a game is crafted, is like how pissed off do I get trying to get from point A to point B?
Right, and is it like a healthy pissed off where it just like brings up your like sense of challenge, or is it a pissed off where you're like, Jesus, this is ridiculous?
Oh no! I like getting pissed off for a challenge is not a problem for me at all because I play a lot of shoot 'em ups, and that's that's part of it. That's definitely part of it. Getting your ass.
There's a
beat
difference
is-
between getting pissed off because it's challenging and getting pissed off because it's badly done. And badly
I mean, I've
made.
never been frustrated with difficulty. I have plenty of times actually, but I'm rarely so frustrated with difficulty that I give up entirely. But when it's frustration with poor game design and poor direction on the part of the developers, that's a different brand of frustration. That's like a fuck this kind of thing, Cool. God damn it,
You have angered Lord Exion.
Well, you know
Exeon
what?
is pissed.
Let's leave it at that, and we'll cut it off here for this week. If you guys want to make any comments, tell us what you think. How much holding your hand or rails or level design, what do you consider good gameplay? Post it up on the comments, and we'll try and address it next week. And in the meantime, hopefully go out and enjoy some Odin Sphere. If you can read Japanese, do some Professor Layton, and we'll be back with you next week with some more information. All right, thanks everybody. Good night.
Woo! Good night.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, and welcome to the official Retroforce Go episode 1. Fuck, I fucked it up.